Hello and welcome back to all 1,240 plus of you avid consumers of Pax Day content out there, and the nearly 60% of you who have not yet decided to join the ranks and subscribe. I'm Eltari, the professional gamer, and today we have some really exciting news that I couldn't wait until Friday to talk about, and that is we got some alpha key takeaways, but more importantly, the next alpha date for Pax Day. This is super exciting news and I wanted to share it all with you. So before we get to all of that, I also would love to thank all of our amazing channel members. Firm professional handshakes to all of you. Now, getting into the new information, we have a date for the next alpha, or at least a region of dates, and that is going to be in the first quarter of 2024. So it looks like by the March or April timeframe, we will have already been in Pax Day. I don't know how long this test is going to be for, or how long the duration is going to be. Hopefully it's longer than the 2 to 3 weeks that we got from the last alpha, but either way, that is very, very exciting to hear. And if you haven't done so, do make sure that you go over to the playpaxday.com website, sign up for the alpha. A lot of people didn't get in last time because they didn't know about the game. They weren't able to sign up before the deadline of November 12th. But the developers also gave us a pretty good summary of their key takeaways from this most recent alpha. And there were two main objectives that we're going to cover today. And the first one was they intended to stress test their system, and then additionally they wanted to test exploring, harvesting, crafting, building gameplay, and all of those associated loops. So firstly, talking about the system side of things, they were able to test a lot and get a lot of feedback and a lot of data on how the game is running with a lot of players, with a lot of things being built, and they were able to uncover a lot of performance improvements. Additionally, they have uncovered that there are a lot of areas for them to still improve, especially in areas that have high density buildings, so like larger cities and groupings of players. They believe that they can get even more performance improvements from those particular parts of the game. All of those system improvements aside, they also wanted to talk about some of their building gameplay and some of the refinements with that. So one of the key things that a lot of us noticed, especially if you're playing in areas where there were a lot of players, is kind of all of the trash that was sitting around in just random places in the world. And a lot of that was due to the fact that players could very easily place a plot, build on it, pick that plot up, and move. And the reason why that system was like that in the previous alpha was so that we could build incredibly large, intricate cities and structures and all of that, even though there were not that many players. In the future, they're going to refine that system and not take away that freedom, but refine it a little bit more so that we won't have nearly as much trash and just excess building stuff around the world, making it feel a lot more sandbox Minecrafty and a lot less immersive Pax Day medieval content. Additionally, they are going to be refining the snapping system for building, which is great. I know a lot of people had comments on that, and they are going to be expanding on the building content in the future. We only had a very small amount of tile sets to work with, and the amount of stuff that we were able to build. I mean, if any of you checked out our Creators of the Creation series, all 4 of those builds were drastically different, and it's insane how much variation we were able to get just from the limited tile sets that we had. Those are going to be increasing in the future over the course of multiple tests, though the next alpha test, interestingly enough, is not going to be about building, crafting, or harvesting. It sounds like there might be a completely different focus for that new one. Maybe it's combat. In addition to that, they are going to be working on resource spawns. There was an issue towards the end of the alpha where resources were just spawning on top of buildings. That was a known issue from previous iterations of the alpha build, and I think it got reintroduced, but they're going to be tuning that down and making sure that the tops of our amazing structures don't have flax growing on them, for example. But other than that, just in terms of resources and crafting, they are going to go through some resource balancing and make sure that a lot of resources that are located in the wildlands, maybe they're more sparsely located in the home valleys. So they're going to make sure that they can balance that out so that players go into the wildlands and explore more dangerous areas of Pax Dei as well. They did talk about some of the recipe costs in terms of how much resources they require, and they will be assessing a lot of those recipes. However, it's also important to note that they do want to have a progression and a challenge for players, and there's also a lot of other things that we didn't have access to. Progression and skills, they did note that they have a little bit of an issue with progression. Some crafting disciplines had really easy paths to leveling up, while others required immense amounts of time to grind. I'm looking at you, Citrine, and the entire jewel crafting discipline. But other than that, failures on crafting, they are going to try and give us some of the resources back in the future. This is something that's going to take some fine-tuning, but they do want to eventually be returning some of the lost resources from a craft if you fail. This won't be 100% thing, and it's most likely going to be tied into your skill for that particular discipline that you're crafting for. One of the last things they mentioned was stamina. I know a couple of people, including Narc, gave a lot of feedback with the stamina cost being associated with all of the harvesting loops, and that's something that they're actually going to keep in the game for now. And I believe that part of the reason for that is they need to have a progression for the gathering portion of the game. So your wood cutting, your mining, and all of that, they need to have some level of progression. So your stamina cost is probably going to be one of those things where as you get better and better and better at wood cutting, the cost of stamina to cut wood is going to get lower and lower and lower, in addition to other improvements that you're going to get as you get better in that skill, which also makes sense in terms of a immersion and realism standpoint as well. Then the last thing that they mentioned is inventory management, and they don't want to make inventory management just something that can be easily done with the press of a button. They want that to be a part of the gameplay loop, but they do want to improve it over time, and that's something that they're going to continue to iterate on based on our feedback. One important note is that they do want to include the ability to make signs and label boxes, which is going to be huge for larger groups of players, or even solo players who have a lot of boxes and they are trying to find out and remember where they have stuff stored. That's going to be a huge quality of life improvement, and it's also going to be fun to be able to make our own signs as well in game. But other than that, that is all of the new information that they dropped for this alpha key takeaways post. It was really exciting, and I couldn't just wait until the PAX Friday review to talk about it. So I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, don't forget to subscribe, like this video, and share it with any of your friends who might be interested in PAX Day. Until PAX Friday, I am Eltari, the Professional Gamer.